Do you have a loved one in your family who had breast cancer or is currently fighting it? Maybe you've just received a breast cancer diagnosis yourself, or it's a challenge you've been going through for a while now. The question is it all just genetics? Just because your mother or grandmother had it, does it mean you will definitely get it too? Or can our risk be lowered through changes in the way we eat? Let's talk about this. In this episode, let's see if breast cancer risk can be reduced by changing up the foods on our plate, particularly if it is including more plant-based foods. Let's look at some recent research on this topic. Grab a warm cup of tea and let's get started. Welcome to the Plant-Based Eating Made Easy podcast. I'm your host, Anna Zinn, plant-based registered dietitian and transition coach. Hi friend, do you want to regain your health with plant-based eating but feel overwhelmed and lost about how to do it? Do you feel it'll be hard to change your meat-heavy diet and impossible with working, running the home, or chasing after the grandkids? If so, you're in the right place. Here you'll find simple strategies, clear nutrition guidance, and practical tips to help you thrive plant-powered with more energy. So if you're ready to ditch the guesswork and transform your health the stress-free way, cozy up now with a hot cup of tea or listen while you walk, and let me show you how doable plant-based eating can be. Let's do this. I don't know if I should say this on the podcast, but I hate cancer. I hate the impact it has on our lives. Even though I'm only in my late 40s, I've already lost 4 friends and 3 loved ones to cancer, with 2 of them to metastatic breast cancer. The most recent one was a friend who lived in the town we used to be in. He had been battling liver cancer for a while now, but had become very weak and needed sedation. Having had to say goodbye myself on so many occasions, I know the grief his wife and children must be feeling now as they grieve his passing. That's why I hate cancer. I hate that it tears families apart and causes so much sorrow and heartache. Yet I know we don't need to sit around helpless, waiting for things to happen. There are proactive steps we can take to build better health and lessen disease risk while we can. Because prevention is always better than cure. Don't you agree? Friend, you can take action now too. It's not too late to build a stronger, more robust body with less risk of cancer and other chronic diseases. Reach out to me at healthnow@plantnourish.com or see the contact options in the show notes. And let's strategize to see what is the best way to help you move forward and begin transforming your health and life. Let's start building your best life and health now through the power of nourishing whole plant-based foods. I would love to support you as you build a full active life and make the most of the rest of your life. Let's connect. Did you know? In the United States alone, over 279,000 new breast cancer cases were reported in 2022, which is more than 250,000 people. And in 2023, the death toll from breast cancer was over 42,000 women. But in 2025, there were close to 317,000 new breast cancer cases reported, which is more than that reported in 2022. Worldwide, breast cancer caused about 670,000 deaths globally in 2022, and it is the most common cancer in women in 157 countries. Even just on a personal level, I feel that breast cancer seems to be getting more common and affecting more people around me. As I am recording this, I have 2 friends undergoing breast cancer treatment. You may know someone too who is also going through chemo, radiation, or surgery because of breast cancer. So, Is the chance of getting breast cancer just based on our genetics? Or is there something more we can do about it? Well, according to the World Health Organization, about half of women with breast cancers have had no other specific risk factors besides gender and age. And while having a family history of breast cancer does increase the risk of getting breast cancer, most women diagnosed with breast cancer do not have any known family history of it. According to a 2024 review paper published in the Journal of Medicine, the incidence of breast cancer is rising globally. And while 5 to 10% of breast cancers can be attributed to genetic mutations and family history, a much greater 20 to 30% of breast cancers are attributed to other factors that can be modified. So that paints a brighter picture for us women. There are proactive steps that we can take, which may help lower the risk of getting breast cancer. Some of these action steps may be to reduce alcohol use, reaching a healthier body weight, being physically active, and limiting use of hormone replacement therapy. Is our food and lifestyle one of those areas that can also impact breast cancer risk? Let's see what some recent research is uncovering. In 2021, the results of a large-scale prospective study were published by Romanos-Nanclares and colleagues. These researchers followed 76,690 women from the Nurses' Health Study for about 32 years and 93,295 women from the Nurses' Health Study 2 for about 26 years. During this time, they looked at the incidence of breast cancer cases being diagnosed and how that compared to eating patterns through food frequency questionnaires collected every 4 years. 3 different versions of a diet index were used to score the data collected from the questionnaires: an overall plant-based diet index, a healthful plant-based diet index, and an unhealthful plant-based diet index. Of the 18 key food groups identified, 7 were categorized as healthy plant food groups. These included whole grains, vegetables, fruits, nuts, legumes, vegetable oils, and tea or coffee. On the other hand, 5 were categorized as unhealthy plant food groups, and these were fruit juices, sugar-sweetened beverages, refined grains, potatoes, and sweets. Here's what the researchers found. Women with greater adherence to the plant-based diet index and healthy plant-based diet index were at modestly lower risk of breast cancer. The strongest inverse association between the healthy plant-based diet index and breast cancer, though, was seen in those with estrogen receptor negative tumors, or ER-negative tumors. In this study, it was concluded that keeping to a healthful plant-based diet may reduce the risk of breast cancer, especially those that are more likely to be aggressive tumors. Now let's look at another study. In 2021, the results of a population-based case control study was published by researchers Rigi and colleagues. This means that analysis was done at a point in time, like a snapshot, with specific adult subjects, instead of following them prospectively over a period of time. In this study, the researchers looked at the dietary patterns of 350 cases of women with newly diagnosed breast cancer and 700 age-matched controls who were apparently healthy. Dietary data was collected using a semi-quantitative food frequency questionnaire, and the intake of these women were also scored using the plant-based diet index, healthy plant-based diet index, and unhealthy plant-based diet index. Here were the results of this study. Researchers found that those who had dietary patterns in the highest quartile of the plant-based diet index had 2/3 lower odds of breast cancer compared to those in the lowest quartile of this index. And for the women whose dietary pattern fell in the highest quartile of the unhealthy plant-based diet index, there was a 2.23 times greater chance of breast cancer observed. The study authors concluded that a greater adherence to the plant-based diet index and the healthy plant-based diet index was inversely associated with the risk of breast cancer, whereas the unhealthy plant-based diet index was associated with an increased risk. Now, it's important to be aware of some key limitations to these studies and their study results. First of all, the designation of which foods are considered healthy or unhealthy is a little arbitrary, with vegetable oils in the healthy plant-based foods groups, while potatoes are categorized to be an unhealthy plant-based food group. But while highly processed potato products like potato chips and fries might fall into this category, just baked or cooked potato can still be considered healthful. So the way these plant-based diet indexes are derived will definitely have an impact on the study results. Also, these studies are looking at the impact of eating patterns that are more plant predominant on health, which is showing a positive correlation. But these studies are not specifically looking at vegan or whole food plant-based diets. So the plant-based diet index used for analysis here is not referring to an exclusive vegan diet index. But if there are already positive correlations with lower risk of breast cancer and more plant-predominant diets, I imagine there could be an even stronger correlation seen for those on a fully whole food plant-based diet with a lower future breast cancer disease risk. I hope more long-term, well-designed prospective studies can be conducted in the future to study this potential connection, and I look forward to seeing the results. Let's recap. Today, we looked at the question of whether adding more plant-based foods into our meals can help lower breast cancer risk. And I highlighted 2 research studies recently published on this topic to help us answer this question. While these studies aren't perfect, I feel we can still learn a few important things from them. That diets with a greater proportion of higher quality plant-based foods like fruits, vegetables, legumes, and whole grains tend to be associated with a lower risk of breast cancer occurrence. And actually, we see a similar trend playing out in research from large-scale prospective studies looking at the plant-based diet index and other disease outcomes like incident cardiovascular disease and incident diabetes cases. That's encouraging to hear for those of us wanting to drop breast cancer risk, isn't it? That focusing our meals and centering them around more whole plant-based foods can be beneficial for our health in so many ways. I wish we can live in a cancer-free world, one where we won't have to worry about getting diagnosed disease conditions like prostate cancer, colon cancer, or breast cancer. And once we get a diagnosis like this, it can feel pretty scary and overwhelming. I have had friends who have gotten diagnosed with breast cancer, and they are just in their 30s. It has been a challenging time, not just for them, but for their families as well. Friend, let's take proactive steps now to build the best health and life with minimal disease. If you've been wavering and unsure if you should try plant-based eating, I hope after listening to this episode, you will be encouraged to give it a try and to take a step forward to transform your health and your future. Send me an email at healthnow@plantnourish.com to tell me your desire to move forward in this, and let's build your best health together. Thank you so much for listening. If this podcast has inspired, encouraged, or helped you in some way to transform your health, I would love to hear about it. Please take 30 seconds to rate and leave a written review on Apple Podcasts to let me know. It will encourage me so much to hear how this podcast has positively impacted and made a difference in your journey towards wellness. And share about this podcast with a friend or loved one so we can all thrive in the best health. Remember, plant-based eating can be easy and doable. See you in the next episode, my friend.